as I made room for grace. So breathe in and breathe out. My name is Anna, and I'm thrilled to be up here at this moment for our meditation. And I know each and every time we're up here, I have mentioned the breath, for truly that is what connects us to the divine. And so now ease your body, relax your thoughts, deepen your sense of yourself, preparing for our meditation alone and together. Allow your breath to guide and fully connect with divine awareness. And again, gently in, feel the breath of life and let it go out, releasing all that we are not. And again, a breath in for the divine sense of life. And then we release it, relaxing our thoughts, our mind, our body. Knowing that choice always leads me to the place that I want to be, and I know that this place is a place of peace. I become aware with each thought, each breath, each moment. I choose peace. This peace is divine. It's deep, endless, inspiring, constant. I breathe in peace fully. Now and ongoing, I release all that is not of peace, for this is my source, peace. My sense of myself now is peace. My sense of the divine now is peace. My sense of all that is, now and ongoing, is peace. Again, all else falls away. All else dissipates. I breathe peace. I think peace. I feel peace. I know peace. All is peace in my life. All is peace in my life. All is peace in my life. And so now we're going to let everything fall away and allow ourselves to deepen in this moment here in the sanctuary at Unity of Columbia. We're going to enter into the divine silence. There is only peace, and now I allow myself to rest fully in this peace. And with the intake of breath, I allow myself to come back into this awareness of being present here at Unity of Columbia. And again, I sense peace all around me. I am peace. Every breath, every thought. I am peace now and ongoing. I am that I am, and truly, I am now and ongoing peace. And so it is. Amen.
Good morning. As we step into the year 2026 and ultimately towards 2028, it is wise for us to pause, to breathe, to take a clear spiritual inventory of our lives. Not only our personal lives, but our collective life. Our nation, our culture, our direction as people, and yes, the visual decay of the major institutions of power. Huge business corporations, politics, justice, medicine, education, and of course, religion itself. Because whether we like it or not, our outer environment profoundly affects our inner cultivation and spiritual growth. And here's the spiritual truth we must be honest enough to face. There is no sustained peace where there is a lack of outer freedom or inner security. There's no brightening of our individual light when the surrounding atmosphere continually tries to dim it. So here, at the beginning of a new year, we must ask ourselves some honest questions. Are we growing or just cruising along? Are we evolving or moving towards extinction? Is our environment nourishing our soul or draining it? But as students of truth, as seekers of spiritual clarity, we must deal not in slogans, but in reality. The more dependent we become on government or large institutions who care only for those at the top of the pile, the less we remember what freedom and independence taste like. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore founded the Unity Movement as a healing ministry based on spirituality, not religion. They realized that religion had hijacked and co-opted the concept of spirituality by trying to make these two concepts synonymous, when in fact, they're not even close in meaning, not even two sides of the same coin. The Fillmores taught that it is our individual, self-responsible freedom and choice to create our own reality. They believe that we are all one with and the same as the one infinite consciousness, which is the architect of all that there is or will ever be. We are it, and it is us. They regarded the man Jesus as one of the great spiritual way showers. And they sought to provide quiet, meditative settings where all people could gather, meet, and grow metaphysically, regardless of nationality, faith, or personal lifestyle choices. When What they proposed was a community based on universal oneness, on spiritual awakening, rather than following rules and dictates of self-appointed religious leaders who had some truth that we didn't have. As serious people seeking truth at the beginning of a new year, we must naturally ask some deeper questions. Not just, what do we want to do, but to ask, who are we becoming? Not just, what do we believe, but how are we living? And that brings us to today's question, a question that may sound unsettling at first, but is actually one of the most important spiritual questions we can ask. Is religion spiritual? Now, let me be clear right away. This is not an attack on religion. Religion has, to some small level, served humanity for thousands of years, even before we could do more than grunt, before we had words or concepts, and lived in constant fear of not knowing what the natural world was or what might eat us. Religion offered a primitive moral structure of community, meaning, comfort, security, and hope. But honoring religion does not mean refusing to examine it. Because if religion is meant to serve the human spirit, then it must be allowed to grow and evolve as the human knowledge and spirit grows and evolves. And sometimes the most faithful thing we can do is to ask the honest question, is religion spiritual? Several months ago, I saw an image that stayed with me. This image up here. A goldfish swimming in a bowl, safe, fed, contained. And outside the bowl, the vast ocean, alive, dangerous, beautiful, and free. The bowl was labeled religion. The ocean was labeled spirituality. And I thought, that image explains more than 1,000 words or arguments ever could. Religion, at its best, is the fishbowl. It protects us when we are young. It gives us language when we don't have one of our own. It offers guidance when the world feels overwhelming. But the bowl was never meant to be our purpose or destination. At some point, our growth requires more space. And the danger is not the bowl itself. The danger is mistaking the bowl for the ocean of spirituality. Religion often begins as a path towards truth, but too often becomes a substitute for our personal experience and growth. And this is the difference we must understand. Religion is inherited. Spirituality is discovered. Religion demands compliance to rules and commandments. Spirituality encourages and embraces openness to new thoughts and discoveries. Religion tells us what to believe and how to behave. Spirituality asks us what we have come to know as truth. Religion offers answers only. Spirituality teaches us to ask and live the questions. Religion tends to rely on their absolute authority on all subjects. Spirituality relies on individual awareness and responsibility. And this is where so many sincere people struggle. They are not rejecting the unknown and unknowable infinite creative mind and power. Rather, they are rejecting a second-hand version of some God or whatever other names that this separation used, like Allah, Krishna, Zeus, etc., that no longer matches their lived experience our reality, and thus created hate of what they think is not their God. Spiritual thinkers are not faithless. They are being honest with their doubts. They sense, and rightly so, that there is something we call God, but it cannot be confined to doctrine alone. It must be felt, lived, embodied. That character matters, that purpose matters, that self-responsible trust matters, that waiting passively for rescue from some outside, even divine source, whether economic, emotional, or doctrinal, was not faith, but abdication. And this is where religion and spirituality often part ways. Religion can subtly train us to wait for forgiveness, to wait for permission, to wait for salvation, to wait for heaven, or to fear hell. Spirituality trains us to participate, to take responsibility, to develop character, to align our thought, actions, and consciousnesses, to bring wholeness into the present moment through how we live, day in and day out. Religion sometimes asks, what must I believe in order to be accepted and saved? Spirituality asks, what must I do to become whole? Religion often emphasizes obedience. Spirituality emphasizes self-responsibility. Religion may say, trust the authority of your leaders. Spirituality says, trust the process of self-awakening. And here's the uncomfortable truth that we rarely name. Fear has been mistaken most often for reverence. Fear of being wrong, fear of not belonging, fear of being punished, fear of doubt, fear of asking questions. But fear has never produced spiritual maturity. Fear produces compliance. Spiritual growth, however, produces courage. One of the great insights from New Age thinking, early self-development philosophy, and from the mystics of every culture is this: the universe responds to who we are becoming, not to what we claim to believe. A person may profess faith all their life and never grow in compassion, courage, or integrity. Another may never use religious language at all and yet live with depth, kindness, purpose, and reverence. Which one is spiritual? Spirituality is not believing the right ideas. It is about living from the right center. It is about inner alignment. This is why spirituality does not need to threaten religion, unless religion insists on remaining static and in power. Religion, when and if it matures, becomes a doorway, not an ancient wall. It becomes a set of symbols pointing towards themselves. But when symbols are mistaken for reality, they become goldfish bowls instead of guides. The goldfish bowl becomes very comfortable, predictable, safe, contained. But life is not contained. Growth is not contained. The human soul was not designed for small enclosures. Another insight from the New Age school of thought in which unity teaches is this: we are not creatures of circumstance, we are the creators of circumstance through the power of our thought and actions. This is a profoundly spiritual statement. It tells us that spirituality is not escape from the world, but engagement with it. Not withdrawal, but our self-responsibility. Not waiting for miracles, but becoming one. Spirituality does not ask us to look upward or outward for answers. It asks us to look inward for clarity. Not some distant outside authority, but to our own consciousnesses. Not to some supernatural rescue, but to our awakened intelligence. And here's where many people misunderstand spirituality. They think it means abandoning tradition. It does not. It means outgrowing literalism. It means allowing ancient wisdom to speak in modern language. It means honoring the past without being imprisoned in it. Spirituality is not anti-religion. It is post-fear religion. It is religion that has grown up. It is faith that no longer needs threats to survive. Faith no longer needing enemies to define itself. Faith that trusts universal truth to stand on its own. So at the beginning of this year, the question before us is not, do I believe the right things? Rather, am I becoming more conscious, more compassionate, more responsible, more alive? And this is where spirituality becomes deeply practical. It affects how we treat others, how we handle adversity, how we respond to illness, loss, success, and failure, how we take responsibility for our inner life. Religion can teach values. Spirituality embodies them. Religion can inspire ideals. Spirituality practices them. Religion may describe love. Spirituality lives love. And so back to the question, is religion spiritual? It can be, but spirituality, true spirituality, will always be larger than any institution. And Charles and Myrtle Fillmore knew this and wanted Unity to be a spiritual center rather than just another religion. Unity is built on spiritual principles instead of religious dogma, because spirituality is life itself coming to know itself through us. Finally, spirituality is this principle of reverence for all life. And here and now, reverence is practiced, not proclaimed. It is practiced in awareness, in responsibility, in kindness, in courage, in presence. When we live this way, fear has nothing to feed on. And what replaces it is not belief, but peace. Not certainty, but trust. Not control, but participation in life itself. And that is not a promise for another world. That is freedom now. Our invitation this year is not to abandon the fishbowl in frustration or anger, but to recognize when we have outgrown it, to thank it, and then, if I can figure this out, well, did they do it? Good. And then to swim, to trust that the same intelligence that brought us this far will carry us further, to live not from borrowed belief, but from awakened understanding. To stop asking, what am I allowed to do? And begin asking, what am I choosing to become? Because the vast ocean of potential and possibilities is not waiting to judge us, it is waiting to receive us. And the moment that we realize that, we are no longer goldfish, we are swimmers, and life is a love-filled adventure, making our 2026 and beyond an amazing statement of what can be. And so it is.